Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast, Season 3, Episode 24. I'm JT, joined by Frank and Jake. No Lounis today, he is out. And as the tweet from the @3rd and 20 Twitter account said, no Lounis, no problems, as we're going in straight into a mock draft. Straight into the mock draft. It is going to be without Lounis. We'll do another one down the road with Lounis in there, hopefully, to get some, differing takes and opinions. But we figured, hey, everyone's declared now for the NFL draft. We have a general idea of who's going to be taken where. Nothing too crazy or pinned down yet, but might as well get the mock drafts rolling and get the early one in. So with that, I don't know if Frank already has the screen up, but
it's up, and we are ready to ride.
It is. Let's ride, boys. Let us ride.
The boys are riding. I am the brave soul who took the first pick, and with that, I've had the debate. I don't know what's considered consensus or not at this point, but I'm going to take Bijan Robinson here at number 1. He is probably the best running back prospect that we've seen since Saquon Barkley. He should. I'm not going to say he's a lock for a first round pick, but I mean, most of the mock drafts that I have seen from grindingthemocks.com, which takes a composite of all the mocks, have him firmly in the first round, mainly middle of the pack in the first round. So he's going to have elite draft capital, great prospect. I just think I've said it long before on the 3rd and 20 podcast, I think he steps onto the field, he's automatically Dynasty RB1. He's ahead of Breece Hall, he's ahead of Jonathan Taylor, head of, CMC, Saquon, whoever you have up there, ETN, whoever's up there. I think he's just the Dynasty RB1. We could talk about the quarterbacks in a little bit, but I just don't think you're getting that positional advantage like you are with Bijan Robinson. So I'm going to take him at the 101 here.
No complaints from me.
Yeah, I think that is the consensus pick at the moment. But cool. That does make my pick here at 102 very easy. I'm going to take the possible NFL number 1 overall pick, and that's Bryce Young, quarterback from Alabama. I just think this is a no-brainer. Obviously, after Bijan goes at 101, you take the best quarterback going potentially at number 1 overall, and you just say that's what it is. Superflex quarterbacks, get the good ones.
All right, well, you guys left me with the interesting picks at 3 and 4, because this is where decisions, at least for me in these drafts, need to start being made. And after thinking about it, I think I'm going to pass up on CJ Stroud and Will Levis.
I did not expect that.
And I'm going to go with JSN and Addison back-to-back.
Oh.
I'm going to take my two. The sophomore year production for both of these guys, which is apparently, according to all these people on Twitter, the most predictive year for receivers. Believing in that a little bit, as well as the fact that I think that JSN is just a great route runner, really has that NFL feel to the game, looked the part next to other NFL receivers. I don't really care too much about the potential athleticism concerns and the slot concerns. I don't really care, because the modern NFL, to me, it just doesn't really matter as much as, you have a feel for what defenses are running. You can run elite routes. You can set up your routes perfectly. Especially with the way the fucking rule changes are going. I think it helps out a lot of these smaller guys, the fact that they're basically no contact downfield for a lot of these defenses. They're calling everything. And then similar vein to Addison. You guys want to add anything to Jason?
I have a confession. JSN I had at 107 before we even moved to Addison. So he was a little. I'm crossing out names on my big board. I like JSN, but I don't like him nearly as much as you do, apparently, Frank. Taking him at 103.
Do you have him at wide receiver 3 then, JT?
No, he's wide receiver 2. Okay. You'll see coming up. He's my wide receiver 2, but I have him at 107.
Addison at 4 is a little bit of, I'm not completely sold on any of the other quarterbacks in this draft not named Bryce Young. I kind of want to see the draft capital confirmed, like people are paying the huge premium. I need to watch more film on these guys. I'm just not 100% sold, and I'm not sure I want to spend my top pick these receivers, I'm sold. I like both of these guys. Landing spot doesn't really matter a ton to me. The only I imagine Jake's going to take this guy, but Gibbs was kind of the main guy in consideration. But once again, at this point in the draft process, I do have question marks about Gibbs. The problem is that receiving profile that he has, if the landing spot is a check and the draft capital is a check on Gibbs, like the ceiling is the roof, as they would say.
Yeah, well, Addison, similar to JSN, I had him at, you have him at 103 and 104 respectively. I have him at 107 and 108. So I think a little bit different where we value.
You have them both low.
Wide receivers, yes. Well,
interesting.
Low comparatively to where I have other players. I do want to see who Jake takes here because it's either going to make it very difficult or easy for me.
No, I'm going to make it very difficult for you, JT. I'm going to take CJ Stroud.
Not taking CJ Stroud would have made it more difficult for me, to be honest. If I had to choose the scene.
Interesting. But I am going to take him. I liked what I saw from him in the college football playoff. I thought he looked really good. I do think he ends up going as the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. And to me, at 105 in a rookie draft, that is a steal for a guy that's going to be, a top 2 overall pick quarterback.
First, I'm not sure if he's going to be top 2 overall. Oh, you're saying just in general quarterback pick. Well, even then,
I'm saying he's probably going to be the number 2 overall pick. I think.
Yeah, I'm not so sure on that. I mean, I don't know. Like, we could look at mock drafts and whatnot and see all the trades and everything.
Well, I think it's going to depend on someone trading up, obviously.
Yeah,
but with that being said, I do think someone will. I think there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback, and CJ Stroud looked really good in the college football playoff. He looked the part. And I just think teams are going to go after that and say he's going to be our franchise guy and at least try to make a move up for him and see if they can get up there.
My problem with these quarterbacks in this draft class, and specifically, I have way more problems with than the next ones, but specifically sticking with the top 2 is, I've said it before, and it's kind of part of the justification for me taking Bijan where I did. I just think like these guys, when they get into the league and they end up on team, I mean, just regardless of what team ends up taking them and who their weapons are and who their coaching staff is, I just think these guys are like fringe top 10 guys right away. And I'm not sure where they truly excel to bump themselves up ahead of the likes of like a Kyler Murray and those guys who I feel like have suppressed value at this point. So that's where I struggle with these guys and taking them where they are. But I mean, again, I did have Bryce Young and CJ Stroud as 2 and 3 on my big board, so I definitely don't dislike.
The one issue I have with Stroud is that why am I going to take, like, okay, this is going to sound harsh, all right? Just I got to get it off my chest. Why am I taking Mac Jones at 3? Not that he's Mac Jones. He's more mobile than Mac Jones, right? But I'm taking Stroud because I think he's a prolific passer. And he might get better draft capital than Mac Jones. But the problem I have is that I was getting someone that as a passer, I liked a lot. Yeah, he hasn't panned out perfectly right now, but I still think that Mac Jones is a pretty talented passer. He's just kind of in a shit offense. I don't want to pay the 3rd pick of the draft for that. Okay, fine, 106. Yeah, 105. I'll take the quarterback.
I don't think you're taking a Mac Jones, though. I think you're taking a Tua, if we're going to stick with the Alabama comparison. Like, I think he's
even then.
This is
I
a
don't
higher
know if I
hype.
want to. Yeah, the upside is huge. I will say that it is huge, but I just think I'd rather take the receivers and probably the top running back, definitely in consideration at those earlier picks before Stroud, just due to the risk.
I mean, quarterbacks do have the biggest bust rate of any of all these top guys to go in the first round and stuff like that. But at the same time, the upside in them is so large. Like if you hit on a quarterback, just look at the value. You look at the values of Herbert and even Tua this season. Like there's just on any young quarterback that has success skyrockets in value. And I think just CJ Stroud has that upside already, being as talented as he is. So then to just be able to get him here at 105, I just rather that than maybe a more sure hit in a wide receiver or running back here.
But I mean, the other problem though is that I just don't have any rushing, right? If I'm going to take a quarterback early in the drafts these days, it's either you are like a ridiculous level prospect where I have to, or you get me rushing points at the quarterback position, right? That's what I want nowadays.
I mean, like Joe Burrow offers 0 rushing.
Yeah, but
I
Joe
think
Burrow to
Burrow's
me was a
inflated.
like ridiculous level prospect. I don't think CJ
Okay.
Stroud is a ridiculous level prospect.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, if he goes number one in the
much
draft,
different?
like I'm gonna eat my words, and then yeah, I'll have to reevaluate. But once again, I think that CJ Stroud, if we're gonna rate him as a passer, much closer to Mac Jones than he is Joe Burrow.
I would disagree. Yeah, all right. I'm up here. This is where it gets kind of tough because I expected these similar players here to go. And now I have my 2 players that I want. I'm just not sure what order I want to put them on so that they end up on the board. I think I'm gonna go Jahmyr Gibbs first. I just think there's one other player that we've not talked about. Let me make sure I'm spelling Jahmyr right. I think it's HMMYR. Yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back from Alabama. I think it's an issue of he's one of the few left that I believe are, I don't know if elite is the right word that I would use, but he's like the top cream of the top kind of tier talent. I think he's probably going to get first round draft capital, if not early second. He can kind of do it all, although he is a little undersized. But in terms of when I look at this running back class and when I look at this wide receiver class, I think the crazy top floor or top ceiling. After Jahmyr Gibbs, it gets a little murky. There's one other running back who I won't tip picks for that I think can also be here. But Jahmyr Gibbs, for the most part, from the value play, I'm going to take right here. Then the next guy I'm going to take, no surprise here, he's my wide receiver 1, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver from, I spelled that wrong, wide receiver from TCU. He was pretty quiet in the championship game, but to be fair, Duggan literally didn't have any time to throw. TCU's offensive line was getting beat by Georgia's second team defensive line. I'm not going to hold anything against Quinn Johnston there. He was a beast when he was on TCU. I'm not going to hold anything like a Jalen Reagor against him, or Doxson, I think, was the other big named wide receiver to come out of TCU early. I just think he's a different breed. I think he's going to get very high draft capital. People still have him as the wide receiver 1 in this class, talking about NFL people. I think he'll have about top 15 or better draft capital. I'd love for the Patriots to take him. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I struggle to take anyone else other than those 2 players right here.
Yeah, Gibbs to me has to go off the board. The only problem I have with Gibbs, and it's a similar problem I had to DeAndre Swift, was
I like them both.
That in between the tackles, I just expected more out of them.
Yeah.
They can't make people miss in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And the one thing, like, I'll give Gibbs is that I feel like I'm more confident in his receiving profile than I was Swift's, as well as I discounted Swift too much because he did execute the run scheme extremely well, was able to deal with interior pressure from penetrating defenders, checked a lot of those boxes, and this is, okay, Gibbs checks those boxes. Now I just need to see the draft capital, right? If he gets that very early second to a good landing spot, then I know that the volume is going to come with it, and they're going to have, at least in theory, a plan in place, and then hype as well, right? Until then, those are legitimate concerns that, his forced missed tackle rate for me is not very high, and I'm not super confident in between the tackles with him.
His current, where he's getting mocked, is looking at the end of the first to either the Chiefs or Eagles. Some other names up there, the Bills and the Saints. But most of these mocks from as of late have him going into the first.
Yeah, I would love that. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
All right, so now I turn it back over to Jake.
Hold on real quick. Anthony Richardson gets first round draft capital. He's going to be hard to pass up at 102 in Superflex. Yeah, but we need to see the first round draft capital. I think that's basically the stick with any quarterback, is that if they randomly go in the first round to a landing spot where they're starting immediately, I just don't think he's gonna go that high. I really don't.
And my issue, if we're gonna make this, I mean, we could talk about. I'm assuming he's getting taken in these top 2 rounds that we're doing, but
yeah, he will. But
yeah, if Anthony Richardson gets taken, after picks 15 or so, he's like the 4th quarterback off. I think what you're going to see is a lot of like comparisons to Lamar Jackson, where it's like maybe not a great passer, but like, oh, look at the talent. We had the episode maybe a month ago with Lounis pointing to, oh, you got to look at the talent for Anthony Richardson. But it's just not the same. Like Lamar Jackson could do it all. Like he was literally a Heisman contender. He won the Heisman. Like you're not going to end up in a much better system than the Baltimore Ravens either for where Lamar Jackson was as a player. It's just Lamar as a prospect was just significantly better than Anthony Richardson coming out. Anthony Richardson does not have it all together, and not even close, I would say. To me, I mean, Frank and I believe both said he shouldn't even go in the 2nd round. But yeah, I don't know. With NFL teams and everyone needing a quarterback and GMs trying to save their jobs, who knows? Maybe Anthony Richardson does get taken that high.
I just see 2nd rounder because
so do I. I think in the end of the day,
no
that's what he
production.
does.
He's no production. I listen. I understand it's the SEC. He's got some good highlights and whatnot. I cannot believe in a guy where I feel like he's too inconsistent. Don't see the production as of right now. All right, Jake, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm back on the clock, and I am going to take the guy that I think JT was considering at least, and that's Sean Tucker.
Yep,
running back from Cuse.
He was actually my 106.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the value here. I think I just think that for this draft class is just deep. To get a running back in the caliber of Sean Tucker at 108 feels great. I really think he does it all. He is a very powerful runner. Does contribute a little bit in the passing game, which is great. All you're looking for is some receptions, a couple of yards. And overall, I think he's going to come in and make an impact right away. I think he will get day 2 draft capital, and that's all you need as a running back. So with that being said, Sean Tucker, 108.
To quick recap, if you're listening on like a podcast, like Apple Podcasts or something, you can't see the video. I took Bijan Robinson at 101. Jake took Bryce Young at 102. Frank took the receivers Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison at 3 and 4. Jake took CJ Stroud at 5. I then took Jahmyr Gibbs and Quinn Johnston at 6 and 7. And Jake took Sean Tucker just now at 108. Those are the top 8 players off my board. I don't know if you guys had anyone else sneak into your top 8. Frank, I guess you could go here. Any of these guys are above your top 8.
Well, yeah, I've been waiting to rip this take off. Oh
God.
That was the wrong box. My bad.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going. I'm going Devin A-Chain.
He's at the 206 on my board.
No, I like this pick, but I think it's slightly too early. But yeah.
Okay, you get started on Devin A-Chain. I understand that the number one concern is with size. I was also in that camp.
Is his name not pronounced a cane?
Well, the announcers were saying A-Chain when I was watching his games back.
All right.
So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. If they fucked it up, it's on them, not me.
I like it. Pass it off. I like it.
Yeah, just passing the blame completely. I was also concerned about the size thing. That's 100%. I believe in that. The problem is that I just think that A-Chain is fucking really good. I just think he's really good. This Texas A&M season was like horrible, right? I'm pretty sure they were in the top 5 of like all college football teams, and the season got completely derailed. And towards the end of the year, it just seemed like it was like, okay, our game plan is that we are going to line up with a lot of big ass dudes on the field and hand the rock to A-Chain. And it worked. And in large part due to the fact that this dude just has like that it factor. To me, when you see the really good running backs, like guys like Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley, all obviously they are like phenomenal athletes and things of that nature, right? But when they're in the groove, they just have that feel when to cut it back, where holes are going to open up. And you can look back on the games and just be like, how the fuck did he see that gap was going to open up immediately? And I get that feeling with A-Chain a lot. The cutbacks, especially, he just has the feel for it. He has that it factor to be that I was missing from an ETN, a Kenneth Walker, even though those dudes I think are slightly better pure runners than A-Chain is. But even besides that, I think that his leg drive and his contact balance is super underrated for a guy that is apparently like super light. And then obviously he has the track speed to take any run to the house. So I really think that A-Chain is a misunderstood back. He's looked at as one of these small scat back type players. I actually think that receiving is one of the knocks I have against him, which is like, when you look at his stats and his profile, you're going to think that he's a receiving type back. I really think that he can come into the league and be a Joe Mixon-esque running back, and I love getting that at the end of the first right now.
He's a projected third rounder currently on the NFL mock draft database. I kind of agree with what Skull's saying here. He's saying, give me Bigsby, Zach Charbonnet, Kendrick Miller, or Evans over him.
That's the
Most
consensus.
Of those I agree with. Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I like him. I just don't like him nearly as much as Frank having him at the where are we?
Nah, see, like I like a chain here at like 202, like right there, beginning of that second round. That's where I would be targeting him more. But I understand if you like the player, go get your guy.
Yeah, I just think that come NFL draft time, this dude is a top 55 pick in the NFL draft.
Oh, okay, calling your shot. Yeah, okay. And I can see you not needing to take him here. Sorry, with the potential quarterbacks boosting him down, pushing him down.
I mean, to me, it's between Kendre Miller, Will Levis, and Michael Mayer. I don't really know which one I want off the top of my head. I think I'm gonna go with Michael Mayer.
Oh, that's who I wanted at the next pick.
Use my 202.
Just because I'm kind of being a wuss here and just going safe. But I think he's just a safe pick. To me, unless Michael Mayer goes really ridiculously high in the NFL draft, he's probably going to go in that late first. I think he's going to go in that late first, very early second. He's probably going to get it to a team that you see getting him targets, and he'll probably just be a value pick wherever you pick him up. I think 110 is decent value for him.
He's getting mocked in like the basically the halfway point of the first round is where it's looking in the NFL draft. So yeah.
Okay, Bigsby, Charbs, Kendre Miller, or Evans over a chain. Draft Kendre. I like Kendre Miller. I just haven't done my analysis on him yet, so I can't be all in. All right, Jake.
I feel like I'm just taking the guys that fall right now. Like, I'm just gonna go with Will Levis.
You take all right. I'm glad you take him here.
I just think at 111 here, a guy that's a potential top 15 pick as a quarterback. Again, big upside, big bust potential. Take a shot in the dark here at 111 and hope he hits, because if he does, he's going to be big time in the NFL. He's got a cannon and he's got some legs on him. So like, if he could actually put this all together, he could be special. But again, he's just one of these very raw prospects that we're going to have to see where he goes in the NFL draft. But at this point in the draft process, I like him here at 111.
Yeah, it's a pretty good pick.
I just don't like Will Levis, but I can't really deny.
I don't either, but like the value pick is just too easy.
That's where I can't knock it that hard. I'm much happier if someone else drafts him instead of me. All right, this is going to be intentional where I take players here, but I do have them relatively equal. So I don't know, maybe kind of a hot take here. But I'm going to take Marvin Mims.
Oklahoma first round?
Yes. I think Marvin Mims is getting slept on by like everyone. I don't know. Like, I was talking with Parker. Parker's in this the YouTube chat right now. I get that people are saying he's like just a speedster kind of guy, like he's that deep route guy. But I mean, 1,000 yards in your junior season. He had a sick freshman season too, like one of the highest yards per route run of any freshman ever. I don't know. I think Marvin Mims is getting slept on and kind of lost in this wide receiver conversation, where I think he's a very elite talent who is not being treated like such. And if I pull up the Marvin Mims mock drafts, I'll tell you where he's going. As long as he gets, I'm pretty sure he's a second round talent, but according to the NFL draft database, he's more of a third round guy. We'll see, though. We'll see. I'm very into Marvin Mims currently.
I would not be surprised if he sneaks into the second round of the NFL draft and then starts going in that late first, early second turn where you're taking him here. Would not be surprised.
All right. The other player that I'm taking here is, looking at my board. Yes, Josh Downs. I think this is more of the consensus.
Dog, that's what I wanted at the next one.
Yeah, I think he's more of the consensus. I'll put UNC for that, his school. More of the consensus pick. He's very good as well. I just kind of like Mims a little bit better. But yeah, Josh Downs is probably going to get taken higher in the NFL draft than Marvin Mims. He's probably going to be right at the border of first and second round. Was pretty sick for UNC. Helped make Drake May a lot of money. So yeah, I'm in on Josh Downs as well.
All right. Well, that leaves me up now with I guess my choice of running back that I want.
Oh, hold on. Let me just dispel something real quick. The YouTube chat saying, wouldn't he have high yards per route run if he just sprints down the field every play? No, because key is if he's sprinting down the field every play, he's not going to get targeted, and then therefore his yards per route run is going to go down. You're going to see that a lot with high A-dot players like Tyron Johnson and stuff. And there's also like a minimum amount of targets that you have to get for this qualifying stat that I'm talking about, right? It's not like you just had one route that you ran and caught a 15-yard pass. All right. And then with that, I mean, if you're commanding a high amount of targets and you're getting, down the field plays, I don't care. It's a bunch of fantasy points. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Nice.
Also, we'll talk about Kayshawn in a little bit. Sorry, school.
All right, so I'm up here at 202, and I'm gonna get a guy that I personally like. Frank's talked about him a little bit already, and that's Kendry Miller, running back from TCU. Again, Yep, I really liked what I saw from him in the college football playoffs. I thought he showed a lot of vision while running. I just think he's a guy that's going to translate to the next level very well. He's comes from this TCU team that was very good, and he was a big part of that offense. I checked every box I really wanted to see from him. I'm going to want to see what he does at the combine. But overall, here getting him at 202, I think it's pretty solid value.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I'm pretty sure he has first round ADP right now, so getting him at 202 feels pretty nice. I'm going to pick up Charbonnet. Oh, geez. Where am I typing? I think Charbonnet's good, but I'm not as high as other people I've seen in the community. But the fact of the matter is that I just think he's a good running back. He's a pretty safe player. He can kind of do anything you ask him to do. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he kind of makes up for it by just being an absolute fucking tank. So I just think that there's a pretty decent road for him to at least be on the field in a committee and being somewhat productive, plus having upside of like improving some of these mistakes that he kind of makes consistently. So early second, I'm not the happiest guy in the world, but I'm pretty happy. Not grumpy.
Not a grumpy Frank.
No, I'm not grumpy. It's just like, okay, I'll take a Charbonnet.
Yeah, that's about right where I have him listed on my big board as well.
I mean, especially if you're doing drafts at this point in the process, I like having a player like Charbonnet where in that early mid second, I can just keep plucking him if he falls.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm going
I
to
think.
pick up
Mhm.
the next pick.
Oh.
Jason
Oh
Hyatt.
my! That's who I was gonna take next. Literally
was-
every pick I was gonna go with has been taken right before me.
he's at the end of my second round.
I think realistically, there's a pretty good chance that Hylett goes in that
Hyatt.
turn there, like 112 to 202, pretty consistently. Because I think that there's a very good chance that he ends up going very early second, but he's kind of
Yeah.
risky because of that fucking Tennessee like run and shoot offense where their wide receivers are literally half a yard from the sideline. It's like, dude, that to me that doesn't fucking translate. No one runs that shit in the NFL. No
That,
one.
all right, a couple things with what you just said. The mock draft so far do have Jalen Hyatt right at that 1-2 turn in the NFL draft. And two, I've said it before when I was looking into Jalen Hyatt, I just feel like he's the Gabe Davis of the college football. He's going to break those long passes and he's going to look sick some games and then he's just kind of disappeared some other games.
But I just think that very early second is a fair price for the risk that he has as a player. His profile is pretty good. I mean, he makes plays. It's just I think that there may be some growing pains initially with him going into the league, but I would gladly take him in the early second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sir Jake, you're up.
That leaves me, and I'm gonna go with Mr. Tank Bigsby, running back from Auburn.
Yep, that's like right where I have him too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty much on the same page here, JT. I mean, he's a guy that had a really good freshman year and then kind of tailed off from there. And I don't know whether that's just due to Auburn being very mediocre in that time, or is that a knock on him? I don't know. I want to see how he tests and where the draft capital is, because I think a big thing with him is just, do teams like him and do teams believe in him? And if that's the case, I think he has a strong potential to, break out again at the next level. So with that being said, Tank Bigsby, 205.
So this is where I run into problems because there are 4 players that I really want right here. And it's just a question of where I'm willing to go. The problem is one of them I would have taken much higher, in Keyshawn Booty, however you say it.
Why do you hate him now?
The character concerns, this junior season, I'm not willing to put that much on him. But it's just like there are a lot of good wide receivers in this class. And like, I still think I might take him right here though. And then the question is, there's some running backs here that I might want to take. All right, I'm going to go Keyshawn here. This is a risk play though. It's a high risk, high reward kind of play. Because if he ends up producing, he's going to be a steal at 206, but he could just fizzle out, not see the field, and just you're kind of throwing your second away. But with a 206, I'm willing to take that. Now, 207, again, it's just there's 3 players for this one spot. I'm going to play the game of which player do I think you'll let me fall to 212. And so with that, I'm going to take Zach Evans, who I know Frank is no longer in on.
I was going to take him next, so it's a good thing you took him.
Cool. I played that game right so far. I've seen a lot of bad stuff about Zach Evans, how he hasn't been able to handle a full workload, how he, I don't know, is kind of slightly undersized. I don't think he is necessarily. He hasn't had a whole ton of production for Ole Miss. I'm still going to stick with Zach Evans here. I think he's a borderline first round running back in Dynasty drafts, who is being taken now at 207.
I don't know. I can't get on with Zach Evans, but I think part of that is because I don't think he's going to command very good draft capital like others are predicting.
That might be the case.
I would if I was an NFL team, I would take him in the 5th, just because I think he's a good athlete and he has a couple tools that have potential. I've seen players like Zach Evans that I don't like but are good athletes, and they seem to always go around pick 120. You know, that was Zamir White. That was Joshua Kelly. Guys that show a couple tools. They're pretty damn good athletes. And I think a team takes them thinking, hey, if we can improve and we might get a pretty darn good back a couple years down the line. Kind of like what Pollard has turned into almost. I just don't like that. I don't like betting on that. To me, he has one move. I can't look at my notes, but it's either a left or a right hand stiff arm. To me, he's got one move. Other than that, and he just tunnels into people. He's just a tunneler, right? It's like, oh, I have a potential, one-on-one against a corner. Fuck it. B gap. And he just tunnels for 2 more yards. Don't like that.
Ooh, Skull suggesting Rice. I don't know. I've definitely cooled on him because before I probably would have taken him in the first round, but I'm not willing to throw him away yet. All right, Jake. I'm glad Jake was saying he'd pick him next because at least that makes me feel better about who I skipped on.
Yeah. I'm between 3 guys here. I don't know who to take.
Yeah, see, it's the same problem.
No, I don't think it's any of the guys you're thinking of.
All right. You do have one more pick after this, so it's basically who do you think Frank won't take here? Is kind of the strategy.
Okay, well, I think that.
Or who do you think Frank will take? I guess.
Yeah, we take Darnell Washington.
That is literally the guy I was going to take because I thought you were going to take him. So yeah,
he's at 207 on my board. It's just that
I was seeing some hate on this class, but in this mock draft, I'm liking these picks. I'm liking these.
I think draft capital is going to temper our expectations because.
Yeah,
so far we have enough space for these guys to go in the top 3 rounds, but at some point you're going to run out of teams are not going to take all these for players in the first 2 days. So
right. So I think obviously draft capital is going to sour us on a lot of these guys, but right now Darnell Washington is 6'7", I think listed at 260, something like that. He is a ginormous human being, and he's going to be a big time target in the red zone here for any team that takes him.
My dream,
just taking a swing for the fences here at 208 on a shot in the dark tight end. That's just massive.
If I could be a homer real quick, my dream for the Patriots is to take Quinn Johnston at 1 in the first round and Darnell Washington in the second.
Just make the largest receiving core of all time.
Just get big weapons. Make this offense something that I can watch. Although I do like Ramondre.
I'm kind of regretting passing on Darnell Washington at 203 and 204. Because the one thing I will say is that no one produces at Georgia at the receiver position. Ridiculous numbers.
Even Pickens,
maybe AJ Green did, but
that was
these days
that was a previous coaching staff.
Yeah, these days they have so many super beasts that they can't they want to keep them all happy so they don't transfer away. So they just let's just ration it out. Everyone gets 15% of the offense, and we just split it amongst all of our nasty players.
Right.
All right, Frank, you got 2 picks.
He's
here.
An absolute animal.
I love
this. Is annoying because there's probably 5 players that I want to take, and I'll just list them off because I don't care what you guys take.
Oh, yeah,
I like Rashee Rice. I think he's pretty good, but ideally I would want to wait on him into the early 3rd, barring he gets really good draft capital. Parker Washington is, I think, a dude that will be going in the 2nd round, so I might take him. The quarterbacks in Anthony Richardson and Hendon Hooker, I think, are interesting at this point because they're being relatively underpriced. Ew. But, dude, I really like Roschon Johnson. I haven't gotten into the film yet, but the other Texas running back.
Yeah, I've seen.
Woo!
Yeah.
Dude, he's good. I just think it's unfortunate he's behind Bijan.
I'm surprised
You're
you're
about
gonna
to take
him here.
Bijan's backup in the second round of a rookie draft.
I mean,
yeah, I might. I honestly might. I think he's really good from the
Yeah,
film
well,
that
how-
I've seen on him. Like, I think he's fucking good. Like,
first off, you said Bijan's backup, like, you know, it's bad. Like Bijan's a bad player, as if he's not one of the best college players we've seen in a while. Second, I mean, if you took UNC Michael Carter's backup running back Javonte Williams, I feel like you'd feel pretty good. I mean, obviously the ACL
But that
tear,
wasn't the
not great.
case.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not the
Devontae
same.
was
You're not
taken
getting-
before him.
You're not getting the same thing going on here, but it is flipped where Bijan's a junior, Roshan's a senior.
you know, I don't give a shit, dude. I don't give a shit. I'm taking my guy.
I'm just surprised where you're taking him because. All right, Parker Washington. I did. Oh, okay. You took Parker Washington 209. Parker Washington, I had
Yeah,
pretty
because you
high
guys
up
are making
on.
me feel self-conscious.
I had Parker Washington pretty high up on my big board actually, but it was kind of just the way that the board. He was one of those. When I was saying there's 4 players for those 2 spots, he was one of them.
See, the thing is for me is that I am willing to be reasonable and be like, okay, obviously Roshan Johnson's not gonna. You look at those like campus to Canton Devi charts where it's like, oh, the top 24 average running back. Like, obviously his circles are going to be below the line because he's just behind Bijan. Like, that's a completely rash. Like, yeah, I would fucking everyone's going to be behind Bijan. It's just like shit happens. He's still nasty to me.
Yeah. Quick recap for the podcast listeners. Bijan 101, Bryce Young, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, CJ Stroud make up the top 5. Jahmyr Gibbs, Quinn Johnston, Sean Tucker, Devin Achane, Michael Meyer are your top 10. Then we have Will Levis and Marvin Mims wrap up the first round. Starting with the second round, Josh Downs, Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet, Jalen Hyatt, Tanks Bigsby at 205. Keishon Booty, I still don't know. I've watched a bunch of their games. 206. Zach Evans, 207. Darnell Washington, 208. And then Frank just took Parker Washington at 209 and Roshan Johnson at 210, the running back from Texas. So 2 picks left here, Jake. Please don't take the guy I want because I wanted him 6 picks ago.
So I got 2 guys that I want here.
Okay.
Both wide receivers.
Okay.
Both from not great football schools.
I'm not liking what you're saying so far because it sounds like a guy I want.
He might have gone to this school.
Okay.
We're gonna take Raheem Jarrett.
Yes. All right. That's not who I wanted there.
The other guy I was talking about was Zay Flowers.
Yep.
I do like Zay Flowers, and
I'm
I
taking
really think he is a guy that can succeed in the NFL as well. But that's not who I'm taking. I am going with the homer pick. I am taking Raheem Jarrett. I've talked about him before. I just think this Maryland team was not able to showcase his talent at all. I don't think they had enough talent on the offense in general to make him the centerpiece and make him the All-American that everyone expected him to be when he changed his recruitment to play at Maryland in the first place. So overall here, it's a real shot in the dark just based on the talent that I know he has. And go Maryland, go Terps, baby.
All right, so big brain JT over here. I had Zay Flowers at 203. I had Raheem Jarrett at 211, and
so I was spot on with Raheem Jarrett.
Yeah, you were. I just took a bet on who you guys liked and didn't like, and figured I could probably get Zay Flowers at the end of the second.
Yeah, realistically, I probably would take Zay Flowers here if it came down to an actual league. But yeah, I do like Raheem Jarrett. I do think he is in the mix at this pick.
Zay Flowers is sick. He's suffered from the fact that he was on Boston College. I think if he went to an SEC school or, I don't know, some Big Ten bigger name schools, we'd be talking about Zay Flowers a lot more. But
yeah,
right,
I agree. Honestly, I probably should have picked him over in that 209, 210 turn, but what are you going to do?
I was not looking at Roshan Johnson. I will say that was 2 rounds, and we
still have some
I'm not
players.
crazy. Anthony Richardson, is not in our first 2 rounds.
That's why we need Lounis.
Yeah, Anthony
if we had
Richardson,
Lounis, he would have been gone in the first round. So
The problem is that I understand the upside, but if I was drafting today, I am not taking Anthony Richardson. Just not drafting him.
Same. I mean, I'll take him in the 3rd round. You giving me it for like 3? Like, where was Malik Willis going last year after he got picked by Tennessee? Like late. I feel like that was the 3rd
He's
round.
going in the second,
late
somewhere
second.
in the second.
All right. I mean, I personally, and Lounis would vehemently disagree. I just think Anthony Richardson is actually worse of a prospect than Malik Willis. I just truthfully do think Malik Willis was better. It looks like the NFL is probably going to disagree. So there's that. But even then, I still can't see him actually being a 1st round pick.
Okay. That's the mock, fellers. Good first mock. We're definitely going to get this stuff cooking here. So we'll probably have another mock relatively soon. So we'll keep pumping them out. Maybe we can try and find a new idea, or see if we can find, maybe we could do a live mock.
What do you mean?
Get more than just us 4. That might be interesting.
There are ways we could do that.
Yeah, there might be.
We can send out a link we can send a link out in the chat.
We do.
But I wanted to touch on trades we're doing, because right now I know a lot of people are eager to trade, but and I am as well. I just have been struggling to try and get some trades going. I think right now is like a hard time.
A lot of people are in holding patterns.
Yeah, or just kind of holding their assets, especially these draft picks. But I do have some trades that I'm trying to do that I want to talk about. And the very first is I want to trade for Javonte Williams.
I've tried everywhere. I want
to trade for Javonte. In the 2nd, 3rd, and 20 league, I'm trying to trade him, try to trade Breece Hall into Javonte, and other leagues, I might just be looking to try and pick up a share of Javonte. But one of the main reasons why is, yes, it was a small sample size in the beginning of the season, but he was getting some very juicy looking receiving numbers early in the year. I believe in his talent as a pure runner. He's right now RB9 on Keep Trade Cut. I think right now is one of the first times in a while that Keep Trade Cut price is legitimately a fair price to get in on Javonte. I'm not really too scared of the injury. He's still super young. I'm curious as to hear, let's say you had Javonte right now. I have 110. How much do I have to add to get Javonte on top of 110?
I like Javonte a decently amount more than what we have at 110, Michael Mayer. That being said, though, like I'm also in the camp of I don't hate selling him just for a random first later on. But sticking to your question, like a 24 or 25 first, but sticking to your question, what on top of 110 do you need to give up to get Javonte? Probably a mid-second. I can't imagine much more. Like there's no one out here giving up 2 firsts, even if they're late first for Javonte at this point.
You might get it.
You think so? I don't think so.
I doubt it. Not with the knee injury. Not 2 firsts. I think a first and a second is pretty fair. If it's a 111 or a 112, you may have to show.
That's what I'm talking about.
Second. 110 though, like there usually is a gap. I don't know where it is to be determined right now, but there's definitely a mental block between 110 and 111 and 112. You're still a top 10 pick, and I think that people do value that 110 pick. That there is a tier break right there in terms of value. I just think that like I said I was trying to do before, going from Breece Hall into Javonte, the current price on Keep Trade Cut is like around 205. I'm pretty sure in terms of rookie pick. I would do that, and I think that I'm going to try and do that with Lounis if he's looking to trade up. What do you think about that? What side would you rather be on of that trade?
On the Breece Hall side.
What was it? It was Breece Hall
and 205 this year for Javonte and 205 for Breece Hall. Excuse me.
I like that.
You want to be on the Javonte side?
Yeah, I lean the Javonte side personally, especially with both these running backs coming off the same injury, right? They both have torn ACLs, so with that being said, I do think Hall is the slightly better prospect, or was the slightly better prospect. So throw in 205, which in this draft, Tank Bigsby from our mock today, I'd take Tank Bigsby and Javonte for Brees Hall here.
A healthy Brees Hall, I would have at, if we're discounting Bijan Robinson, a healthy Brees Hall I'd have at 101. A healthy Javonte I probably wouldn't have until 106 in terms, not 106, sorry, 101 in terms of the first running back, RB1. That's what I'm looking for. Brees Hall I'd have at RB1. Javonte I'd have probably like RB6 or so, and it's just not enough for that like second to move off Brees Hall, in my opinion.
What if it was 201? Because that's also a pick Lounis has.
201 plus Javonte for Brees Hall. I mean, still probably not. I think this class, based on where like draft capital and everything, I think 201 could be a steal. I just really like Brees Hall. Like, I really like Brees Hall still. So I think I'm still going to probably lean no.
Yeah, I do too. I just want to get. I honestly have Brees Hall and Javonte as relatively similar rated running backs. I think Brees Hall, the reason why everyone likes him more is because he's shown it a little bit more. He's flashed a little bit more, but I just think as prospects, they're pretty darn similar. And the fact that I can get 201 is a pretty fair price. I'll even give up a little bit on top to go up to 201 from 205. But I think that that's a pretty good trade in terms of trying to build some value and build some depth.
Keep trade cut Jarrett Stidham, Irv Smith Jr., 2023 late third.
Give me the third.
I'm cutting Irv Smith.
I want the third. The other two, I'm
going to trade Stidham and I'm going to cut Irv Smith. I just want to look up for my trades we're doing, where I can get certain players and who's ranked above them.
Yeah, so do you guys have any trades you're trying to do? Trades you're doing?
There are at least 3 players off the top of my head that I would like to buy. Number 1 is actually not the top of my list, but in terms of value, he's the top. Jonathan Taylor. Buying Jonathan Taylor. I think he got punished too much for being injured for this year, and just an awful Colts team. Their offensive line also isn't what it was. Quinn Nelson, he just got paid a bunch of money in the offseason, and he was not nearly the all-pro guard that he typically is, like the crazy all-pro at least. I mean, he still was very good, don't get me wrong, but the offensive line as a whole took a step back. But Jonathan Taylor, I had still in that RB1 overall conversation, right up there with Brees Hall. He's dropped down a little bit more. And there's just players above him that I would like to trade into, like volatile assets, such as Justin Fields, that I kind of want to move off of and go into Jonathan Taylor. Other players where I want to move, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. While I like them both, I think they're both kind of still at this point overrated. Same with Trevor Lawrence, especially after the playoff game that just happened. Those 3 are overrated, where I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor. And then if I look at the keep trade cut calculator and what you could get on top of those guys, I'm going to assume it's actually a decent fair bit. So let's just do like Joe Burrow here for Jonathan Taylor. On top of Jonathan Taylor, you would get the likes of, like, that's just ridiculous. I don't think that's true, but like a Kyler Murray and or a 103 in this 2023 class, that I think is ridiculous. I don't think you're truly getting that. But if you could get a first on top of Jonathan Taylor for Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert, or Justin Fields, or Trevor Lawrence, I'm doing that, to be honest, because I think at the end of the day, they're all first-round startup picks, and I think those quarterbacks should be more near the end, specifically Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, of that first round.
You see that Skull says, I roster 17 running backs in the 3rd and 20 league. That's hilarious.
See, actually, I'm going to pull up this roster right now. Well, he probably just
as many running backs as possible.
If he's in the 2nd, 3rd, and 20 league, right? Because my team, I did the productive struggle for the first year, but I've got no running backs in that league. So if he wants to toss me something, that would be dandy.
JT, I'll toss you some.
Oh, he
just
truly
might
does.
be the
He
ghost
does
of
have
Ezekiel Elliott.
is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I count 16, but still, that's a ridiculous number of running backs to have. All right.
I've got another trade I'm trying to do. Hey, wait.
Okay. Yeah. One sec.
Do something?
Jonathan Taylor, I also would flip the other way, and if I'm trying to buy into Jonathan Taylor, I would take the likes of like a George Pickens and package like that 201 that you were talking about, Frank. If I could package him on top of George Pickens and get Jonathan Taylor, I would definitely do that. That's something that keeps
is it that close?
Possible.
It actually
says 203 in Pickens is what gets it done. I don't know.
Worth sending out.
Yeah, I'm willing to try it, but to get Jonathan Taylor. All right, yeah, I'll flip it back to you, Frank. Who are you trying to get?
I'm actually trying to sell, and it's the 2022 rookie wide receiver class because I don't. Here's the problem. I like all these guys. I like them all. Not all of them, but all the ones I have, I like. Which is a lot of Jahan Dotsons, a handful of Garrett Wilsons, Drake Londons, Treylons, right? Like, I think that these players are good. The problem is that if you go and look at where the 2022 wide receiver class is ranked, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. This is not going to stay, right? And we've seen it with previous receiver classes with guys the likes of Laviska Shenault in 2 years' time go from a first to you can't even move them for fab, right? They are cut type players. I just think it's the prudent thing to sell out at some of these prices, right? And I know we talked about it on last week, but I need help because a guy like Jahan Dotson, I don't know if I really should keep him or sell him. Like, do I just trade him for the first and do what I've been saying, trade him for the first, buy a Lockett? Like,
yes.
It's just so hard because I just can't.
I agree.
It's a
move. It's a move that you just like. It hurts to do, but you look back and you go, okay, like I got a better prospect than Dotson was, plus an older vet. Like it just makes sense to me, especially in a class like this. It just makes sense.
Or what about a Garrett Wilson or a London?
No.
Trading those guys, that's tough. That's a different story, though. It's a different caliber of prospect. It's not the same scenario here. Like, there is a large chance that Dotson, although I like him and had a great rookie year, he had 7 touchdowns. You probably see that number drop back to about 4 or 5. He still has Terry McLaurin there. The quarterback is going to change again. There's so many unknown factors in Washington right now, where if I could re-roll and pick up a Tyler Lockett, I feel like that's just an easy W.
Well, if you had separate trades, like I transition a second at a Tyler Lockett.
It doesn't matter. Even if it's two trades or whatever it is, if you end up taking Dotson and coming away with, Lockett and 110 in this draft, you look great, in my opinion.
From the wide receivers, the now going to be sophomore wide receivers perspective, there are 3 wide receivers that I would actively be trying to buy that I still think are underpriced. And those are Drake London, Garrett Wilson, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Everyone else is either a hold or a sell. Wan'Dale's he's deflated value so much at this point.
I just don't see how Garrett Wilson is a buy, though.
I think he's
so high.
I think he's very good.
So high.
Now, actually, am I going to change my mind where I say him on Keep Trade Cut? Because I haven't looked on Keep Trade Cut. Oh, yeah.
I don't think you get a first right now.
Yeah, no, never mind. All right. There are 2 wide receivers. 2 wide receivers. Drake London and Wan'Dale.
I think I could get a first for Dotson. It might not be direct, but I 100% could sell Dotson in a second for a first. I know for a fact I could get that done.
I believe that.
Which leads me to believe that someone might accept a first and a third. Or a Dotson and a third for a first. If I offered it for every single first-round pick, even straight up, I think there are leagues where a contender would take him for a contender first. That's obviously league dependent, but I'm going to start off by mass offering if I'm going to sell him. Literally every first-round pick in existence, besides the ones this year that are like clearly out of reach.
Fair enough.
And when you're
the
trying
trade
to buy or sell, Jake,
that we're doing.
Yeah, actually, one guy I want to go out and get in all leagues, and I think
Okay.
it's very doable.
I hyped up Sparky there. I'm wondering who he's gonna say. To me, I'm gonna guess Trey Lance. No. All right, are you gonna unmute or are you gonna tell us or no? Sparky's still.
So the guy I am going out and getting in all leagues is Isaiah Hodgins. I want him in every single league, by the way, and I think it's very doable. I think if you throw a 3rd round pick at the guy, maybe a 3rd, some fab, a 3rd, and a bench guy, whatever it is, I think you can do it in a lot of different ways. I just think he's a very good buy low right now. He is a guy that I think has come into the Giants midseason, and this might be a complete homer pick, but I'm still going for it. He came in midseason off the practice squad from the Bills and completely took over this receiver room. He's proven he's the best receiver on the Giants right now, and he showed it this week again in a playoff game. I just think he's a guy that even if the Giants do go out and get a wide receiver in the free agency or in the draft, Wan'Dale's obviously coming back. I think he's earned a role next season from Brian Daboll, and I just think he's an easy buy low right now.
Us geniuses on the podcast said last week to look out for him in the playoff game.
Nice.
He produced.
Nice.
He produced.
Yeah, I did take him to score this week, and that was a good one. The other guy I'm buying is Russell Wilson. I just don't believe he's this bad. I don't believe it. His value is so low on Keep Trade Cut. It is a joke. It is actually a joke how low he is right now on Keep Trade Cut. I don't care how bad he played this year. I'm blaming Hackett. I think he's the worst coach in existence. He's worse than Urban Meyer. Okay? It doesn't matter. So, like, you can't tell me he's only worth $3,400 on Keep Trade Cut right now. That price is right above Mac Jones. It's just not comparable to me. I know he was so bad, but I'm just gonna go out and do it. If I can get Russell Wilson for 111, I'm gonna do it. It's just something you do.
111. Oh yeah, I would trade Will Levis straight up for Russell Wilson.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, if you can get him for 111,
dude,
you just say thanks.
I wonder if you can get him in some leagues for cheaper for someone that's just really given up on him, where you could get because I'm just thinking to a couple years ago, I feel like there was a point in time where Stafford around the same age, there was a point in time where people were just like, you know what, I'm kind of giving up on him. And if you tried, you could get him for that early second. Why isn't Russ in that same category where if you offered up one of those early seconds at 203, not every league, but I really think there are leagues where people would struggle to reject that after the season he just had.
There are 3 quarterbacks that I want to buy actively that I think have just super depressed values. And to me, I'm not sure how you make this happen, how you get them. I think the easiest way is probably pivoting down from the likes of a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow, a Justin Fields, or Trevor Lawrence. I think that's the easiest place to pivot off. But these 3 quarterbacks I want are Deshaun Watson, Trey Lance, Kyler Murray. I think all 3 of them have just plummeted in terms of where they originally were. And I think it's kind of been undeservingly so. Deshaun Watson, bad person, still a good quarterback. I mean, he came into a weird situation with the Browns this season. I think you give him another offseason under his belt, time away from all the bad stuff that he was doing and just kind of refocus on football. I think that would be good for him. Kyler Murray, obviously the injury and just the Cliff Kingsbury experiment failing. I think he's due for such a resurgence and bounce back. He was like, the Cardinals did not look good, and he was still giving you like 20 plus points a game. I think even closer to 25 points per game. He's like still a top 5, I would say, dynasty asset, and he's currently quarterback 9. And then the other one, Trey Lance. I get Brock Purdy. QB wins will always be a stat. I just don't think Brock Purdy is actually like a good player. I just think this entire offense built around him is what's good. I mean, we saw it with Jimmy G too. He took this team to the Super Bowl as well. Like it's not the quarterback here. And even if, let's say, in this crazy world, Brock Purdy does end up being the starter for the 49ers, which I think there's like a 0.1% chance actually happens. Trey Lance is going to end up on some other team. Some other team is going to take the chance on Trey Lance, and where he's currently valued is super low. So my actionable advice would be to move off these players that I think are either overpriced or basically accurately priced for where they are and don't really have much room to grow, in the likes of that Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. I think those are all ranked substantially higher, where you're giving up a first plus on top of those. Like, you're getting a first plus back to trade those guys for those other quarterbacks, which I think is a phenomenal deal, because I think they should all be rated about the same. And if you're going up into those guys, I don't like doing that nearly as much. But again, what Frank was saying with these rookie going into sophomore year wide receivers, I'd move off a decent amount of them, like a Jahan Dotson, a George Pickens. Chris Olave is where I'm kind of like, he's a whole, like, Chris Olave, I think you could make a lateral move though. Let me look at that actually on Keep Trade Cut. Chris Olave compared to Kyler Murray, yeah, he's rated above Kyler Murray. Or no, he's rated the same as Kyler Murray. He's rated above Deshaun Watson and Trey Lance. I'm just going to take the quarterback over Chris Olave. I like Chris Olave. He proved me wrong. But if I could get an elite quarterback for a wide receiver that I think is really good, not elite, I'm going to make that move every single time. There's a lot of different
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
The running backs like Javonte that we were just talking about, I'd move off Javonte pretty quickly. I know he's not rated that high. But like a Breece Hall, I really like Breece Hall, but he's rated decently above Kyler Murray. You're saying I could get a top 5 asset?
I just refuse to believe that Keep Trade Cut price is real, right? Like, it's so hard to fathom that.
Yeah, that part I do agree on, right? But you can't deny that, like, these guys do have depressed value from where they were at previously. There's definitely doubt creeping into the people's minds, especially with Trey Lance, where you haven't seen him do really anything yet. I mean, he had a couple good throws, but he didn't put together a good, like, full game yet. Deshaun Watson, he's just been battered down already, and then he's come back and put an underwhelming, like, third of the season on tape for you so far. Kyler is the one where it's like, yeah, I don't think he's truly that low, but anything lower than quarterback 5 prices, I still think it's a steal for Kyler Murray. So I'm still willing to pay up from Keep Trade Cut prices to get him.
What's interesting, just on a side note, going to a startup draft perspective, now that you're mentioning it, because it really feels like this year the startup draft is all quarterbacks, and then Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase sneak in somewhere, probably towards the end, but they just sneak in somewhere. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, unless you're getting probably to me the top 2, right? Allen and Mahomes, just the clear top quarterbacks in the league. Having those middle of the pack picks feels way worse than last year. Like, I would really be trying to trade back from 105 towards the end of the first to let someone else get the quarterback they want, because there's just so many quarterbacks that are good. Because I agree with you, right? Like, Lamar Jackson is another guy right now you might be able to move down into.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
I still think that there's a good shout that Lamar Jackson should be ranked above Joe Burrow. I can understand you having Burrow above Jackson, but I don't care. I just want anything on top of either one. Right?
Lamar Jackson's first month to maybe 2 months were MVP level, like legitimate MVP level. And then obviously injuries happened to his receiving core. Then he himself got injured, and it's been a very down season since then, and then just got bounced in the playoffs. But yeah, Lamar Jackson is still top 3 quarterback in my eyes in terms of like fantasy production and everything, and where I have him in Dynasty, maybe 4. I don't know. It just gets weird with Herbert and Burrow, like where I rank them, because they're not going to give you as many points, but the longevity and everything is there, and their situation is much more stable than what we currently have with Lamar. So I don't know, but he's still really high up there, and I just don't think he's currently valued like that, like he should be.
Yeah. Side note: I feel like picks 1 and 2 this year are even better than they were last year somehow. So if you're doing these leagues,
In startup, yeah.
you really should be doing third round reversals because I just feel like 1 and 2, everyone's taking a fucking quarterback in the first round, and you just get the best ones. Like you get
Yeah.
the best ones, and then
Yeah.
you get all your other picks are shifted up basically. Like
Yeah.
I just think that's
yeah.
ridiculously broken.
I've never done the third round reversal, to be honest, and I don't. It just seems unfair in my head, but I know it's
So
not.
yeah, that's what I thought too. It seems unfair
I know it's not
until you
because
because I did that too, right? I was one of the early picks. I was 102 in a draft, and it's a third round reversal. I was like, dude, are you effing kidding me? Like these third round reversals, like I got boned. And then I did it, and I was like, holy shit, pick 2 is still broken, even with the third round reversal. Like, dude, you're reversing the third round. It doesn't fucking matter. The third round is where the shit show begins. Like,
Yeah, it starts to become the get your guy competition.
Mid second is where the shit show usually begins, right?
yeah.
Third round, you're already in the thick of it. Like,
Anything else we want to talk about? Any other trades?
yeah, I got one other thing, and
Yes.
it's kind of just an off the cuff little thing here, but we've kind of seen the let's call it changing of the guard at the quarterback position already, right? We saw the Peyton Mannings, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's, Eli's,
Matt
Phil
Ryan.
Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. We've seen them go, and now we have the likes of Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, all these other young good quarterbacks. Do we think this is the year, because we just did our mock draft, that we really see the changing of the guard at the running back position now? Because we've seen the likes of McCaffrey hit 20, going to be 27. Saquon's going to be 26. Eckler's going to be 28. Where is it? Nick Chubb will be 28 next year. Joe Mixon will be 27 next year. So Derrick Henry will be 30 next year. So like we're hitting these points where all these running backs that have really carried fantasy football for the of the past 5 seasons or so, really starting to get to this point of aging out, and this draft class just happens to be very running back heavy. Do we think this is one of these drafts you look back on and go, oh, there was like 7 guys from this draft that are still starting running backs?
Truthfully, I thought that was, I guess that was 3 years ago now.
Right, but that's what my point is. Like all these older guys kind of still outlasted
they're
that
still
one.
here. Yeah,
and now I'm like, is this finally the class that does it and puts them in the back burner here?
yes, Frank, you look ready.
not completely. No, I don't think they're going to be completely done. Like,
I mean, I'm not saying
Dalvin
completely,
Cook
but
is
I'm
an
just saying
example.
like you're still like slow. Like even Dalvin Cook this year still finished a running back 1. He finished running back 12 on the year, and that's with missing a couple in there. Like, these running backs are still producing. There's no doubt, but it's just getting to the point where they're even getting close to now their almost second extension, which is just like unheard of for a running back in recent years. So it's just like my thoughts start running through my head, and I'm like, are we about to see just the downfall, like a cliff coming for all of these, the Kamaras, the Chubbs?
That's interesting
the
if it's going to be a
Eckler.
cliff or not. Because right now, my problem as someone who has a handful of these running backs, Kamara especially,
Yeah, right.
is I'm not going to sell him if I'm not getting a first round pick, because even if he like him leaving the Saints is like all of a sudden he can be an RB1 again. Like, and he was an RB1 this year basically, but obviously the passing game is kind of deteriorated. So I just feel like it's not worth selling, because I feel like, especially with the guys that are really talented, there's a better likelihood it's worth holding and they become a Leonard Fournette than, oh, the cliff happens and, oh, me selling for a mid or mid early second was like greatly worth it.
I think if you told me 3 years ago that Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, and especially Leonard Fournette and Zeke Elliott were still leading their backfields, and Austin Eckler were still leading their backfields, I would have been very surprised about that. Now, I'm like almost positive that's not going to be the case with with those guys. But
Right.
where I do run into the issue is I think this running back class has a lot of good guys. I don't think they have the true. I think you have like 4 or
But
5 guys here that I
to
think
me, it
will be lead
really
backs.
it almost to a T represents that last class that was like this, where they had Fournette at 104 or 105, whatever he was, and they had McCaffrey at 107. So they had 2 top backs and then just a loaded rest of this class. Where here we have Bijan at the top level, top tier prospect. No one's denying that. And we don't really have that 2 like they had in McCaffrey here, but we still have Jamar Gibbs and Kendry Miller, who are really getting first round buzz right now. So you might get 2 running backs in the first round again, and the rest of this class. Listen, we just took Sean Tucker, Devin Achane, Kendry Miller, Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Zach Evans, and Roshan Johnson in the first 2 rounds of our rookie draft, and that's before the NFL draft. So, like, there could be a lot can change, and running backs could jump in, could jump out. I just think this is a deep loaded class that really has the chance to be as deep as that class that kind of changed the position. I wouldn't be shocked if this group came in and was that group, 5 years later.
2017 class was pretty.
But the problem is, change the position is weird because at that period of time, like around 2016, the past 6 classes were primarily busts. So, there just was spots for running backs. Right now, I think more of the argument is, are these good running backs going to fall off more so than are these, because there are teams that are going to need running backs. Vegas, right? If Josh Jacobs leaves, is going to need like fucking 2 running backs, right? Let alone 1. And there's plenty of other teams that will probably try to take a guy to marinate under their veteran dude, and then it'll be a committee backfield for a year or 2 as they get that rookie up to speed before they take over, right?
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that you have to force sell these older running backs, especially?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, the point of this isn't to say force sell the running backs. The point of this is just to point out, like, hey, we've seen these guys carry the position for so long. At some point, they are going to start to deteriorate, and we've already seen a lot of them start to deteriorate. And this class is so strong, and like we've said, we've had a lot of running backs come in, but let's be honest, Breece Hall just got hurt. Javonte Williams got hurt. Who else are we talking about? DeAndre Swift was an anomaly this year. I don't know what his deal is. So like there's so many running backs that are, came along that were supposed to fill this void, and then they just kind of have fallen flat so far. Not saying they won't pick up the pace moving forward, but I'm just saying they've kind of fallen flat so far. And now to have such a big class coming in of talented running backs here, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking back from this class in 5 years and we go, oh, Tank Bigsby was taken at 208 in our rookie draft. He's a fucking all-pro every year. Like it's just one of these classes that really strikes me as we could look back and it could be a special one.
But my question to you is, if these guys are all going to come in and do that and I don't know if change I'm just going to use that term right now, like change the position.
I
just
meant like
changing of the guard.
We're kind of on the same page there in what we're saying. At the detriment of who are the running backs that are getting knocked out for this?
Exactly.
Is it the old guard?
I completely fucking agree.
Okay.
Or is it going to be fucking Khalil Herbert? Is it going to be Alvin Kamara or Khalil Herbert, right? Is it going to be Dalvin Cook or Tyler Algier, right? Like, who are you putting your chips on? Right now, the Dynasty community is putting all their chips on every single young guy.
Yeah, that's how it always is. And I'm not saying to do that. I'm not saying to go panic sell all these vets, because I do think they still hold value. But I do think you should see what you can get. I'm not saying panic sell them by any means, but start to poke around, especially with the guys that have had success like Josh Jacobs, like Austin Eckler, that have coming off a big season. Those are the guys you can move more easily than the likes of a Dalvin Cook or an Alvin Kamara, who maybe had a down year.
should we be moving off not the old guys, but the young guys? Like the Tyler Algiers, like we've long said, not
I
really
mean, listen,
Tyler
I don't.
Algier, but what's his name?
That's
Damian Pierce.
we've all said it. Just going down the running back rankings right now, we don't like anything outside of like the top 3. That's about it.
Yeah.
Like Brees Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey. There's a consensus top 3. Then there's the likes of Kenneth Walker and Saquon and ETN, where you're like, okay, young-ish, still really good. And then you just get to Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, old, Javonte Williams, major injury, DeAndre Swift, major injury, Ramondre Stevenson, Patriots running back in the top 12. Yeah. What?
But, all right,
Najee Harris hasn't done anything. So, like, you're looking at the likes of the position and you hate all of it. At some point, that has to change.
Did we just stumble into, though, is it better to just get out of these guys in this zone from like RB4 to RB24, where if they're not a veteran that's giving you points, you're just better putting your value elsewhere, whether that be draft picks, wide receivers, quarterbacks? Is it better to just move off those guys? Because, I mean, keep in mind, you are then going to be losing that running back spot in a position where that's, pretty necessary for most teams in their championships. Like, is it better just moving that way? I'm on the side of yes. Like, if I can move off the Rachaad White and Tyler Algiers and Khalil Herberts and David Montgomery's and all those guys, if I can move off them for, even if it's a slight hit of a wide receiver that I think is better value, but more so like a quarterback, like a Russell Wilson or, someone of that caliber, or just draft picks that I feel like are adequately valued according to those players. I'd much rather do that because, yes, I do think we are going to have some deep years of running backs coming in. And the current guard of running backs where they're under the age of like 24 is pretty underwhelming. You really only have maybe even less than a handful of guys that I feel pretty confident in long term. So, yes, if that's what the point of this segment was and that's the conclusion that we're coming to, then I wholeheartedly agree in that. What about you, Frank? Cosign? No?
I mean, I completely agree because, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And this is what I'm kind of feeling in the leagues where I have these older backs is if I'm a gambling man, who am I going to gamble their spot being taken as a starting running back in the league? Doesn't even have to be on their team, as a starting running back. Rachaad White, whatever the Panthers got going on, whatever the Bills got going on,
yeah.
Tyler Algier, Khalil Herbert, whatever the fucking Lions have going on, or legit like Derek fucking Henry and Alvin Kamara.
I feel like DeAndre Swift's getting thrown a little bit too much in the mud here. But
yeah, I mean, I just kind of, but on the other hand, too, though, is just the advent of more 2 running back systems because
that's true.
I think the Eagles would be a scenario where we could easily see them pick up a running back if Miles Sanders leaves and or just if they wanted to complement Miles Sanders more so than what Kenneth Gainwell and the other guys are doing. Mm-hmm. And I think there's plenty of systems that are going to be going that route because of success that we've seen with a team like Washington, where it's like they should not have been in the playoff race, but they were in large part because they were able to just run the football very well. So
Washington needs all they can do to get a quarterback. That franchise just needs a quarterback.
Yeah, they really do.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Honestly, I'm good. I think we can skip out on the playoff talk. We kind of talked about the declares. We can hit it quickly, though, if you have anything that you really liked out of the playoffs.
We kind of covered them.
Talked about them.
And then playoffs, yeah.
Go Giants.
Playoffs,
baby.
I'd just say don't overreact, but I don't know.
I guess we could just hit it really quickly. Daniel Jones.
No, not buying in. I'm not buying in.
Is he worth the first round pick, though?
No.
Yes.
Well, so if you took over an orphan that has Daniel Jones, if you had an orphan that has Daniel Jones, you were selling him for less than a first, and you're going to be happy with that.
Here's the issue. I like Daniel Jones more than Will Levis. Right? Like, I would just rather have Daniel Jones than Will Levis. So in terms of that, like maybe, but I just think those kind of players are getting overvalued. So if someone comes up to me and offers me 110 for Daniel Jones, I'm 100% accepting that. But if I have to give up 110 to get Daniel Jones, like there's just no way. There's no way I'm doing that. If that answers the question.
If you start Kareem Hunt and Connor in RB spots, you're at a disadvantage. Well, not 2 years ago you weren't, and they were kind of considered old veteran running backs at that point. Like James Conner was a league winner.
Well, I also think the argument against that is if you're selling the value of Kareem Hunt and James Conner and you're taking that dip there, I would assume you have, you've built up another position. So maybe now you have two, top 24 running backs instead of top 12 running backs, but you might have like 3 top 12 wide receivers, or you might have 2 top 12 quarterbacks that are, boosting your points, or a top 3 tight end. It's kind of the trade-off there. Or you've helped extend your team's longevity by trading off on these young running backs who, and the point is not to trade off running backs that are giving you a bunch of points, right? Like the likes of Tyler Algier, Rachaad White, and all those other guys that we named, for the most part, they're not giving you the points. And we are all for keeping those veteran running backs that are giving you the points. So yeah, I don't think those two, they're not like they don't coincide, is how I describe the strategy that we were saying versus that.
I mean, it's just whether you want to take the gamble or not. I think part of that is part of your opinion and your evaluation on a player. I think Ramondre Stevenson's a good example. I drafted him in a ton of leagues, and I just wanted to sell him for multiple seconds. And I did that basically in every league I had him, second plus.
I was one of those guys that bought him, but then I also
that strategy has not worked out. But I can go down a laundry list of shittier running backs that it has worked out for. And, I think that there's countless examples of these young running backs that get overhyped. Like, it is a gamble, but I think more times than not, you are happier going into these less flashy veterans and netting the difference in draft capital if you can do it. Like, if you can do it. It's obviously not guaranteed or anything. Like, I don't really think many people are going out here and paying up a ton for Isaiah Pacheco. I see him on every fucking trade block.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially with Jerick McKinnon doing what Jerick McKinnon's doing, and the Chiefs getting mocked every running back in existence every year. It's hard to have any faith in Pacheco.
But then again, if you did that like with a guy like Tony Pollard, you would have really been kicking yourself. So
he's the anomaly for the most part.
I mean, that is something I've thought about, how to handle some of these young running backs, but maybe we'll have to talk about that later.
All right. There's nothing else to add. There's another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty mock draft. Well, we did do a mock draft. The Dynasty mock. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Please like, rate, review, whatever platform you're on. We really do appreciate it, and love all of you for watching and consuming our episodes, shows. I don't know what you really call them, but yeah, we'll be back next week. Another week into the playoffs. Probably more rookie talk. I don't know when we'll have to talk off camera when we want to start breaking down some prospects and everything and really going into depth. But that should be coming soon, because the NFL draft it's like 3 months away. Probably less than that. No, 3 months away.
It's in late April.
Yeah, 3 months away. But I'll be honest, before we know it. So there's only like 12 episodes before then.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, we're gonna have to start really getting into the nitty gritty. But I'm starting to get through a bunch of these prospects. I'm trying to get all the running backs out of the way this month. So hopefully I can get all the running backs done. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.